The following is a TPC Network podcast.
Hey, Pepin.
Yo, 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 yo.
Have you read any good long books yet?
I'm trying, but it's really, really tough. It's hard for me to, really get into books, but...
Well, you should read them. You don't need to get inside it. Books are for reading. Were you making costumes out of books again?
Well, actually, I made this lovely dress. I'm not wearing it currently, but it's actually in my closet, and it's absolutely great, fabulous.
I guarantee you that I would agree with you. You know what would make it even better is if it was made out of DVD covers.
Covers?
Yeah. You know what? I need to know, Nate, what would be better? A dress made out of books or movies? Which is better, books or movies?
I think that movies.
Nate, we need to talk. Welcome back. So glad you guys could join us. I am here once again with my esteemed colleague, editor-in-chief, and general all-around okay guy, Nate Pepin. How's it going? Well, today, maybe another day you'd be wearing a better shirt, but I don't like that color. Also, we have with us very, very special guests. One of them is Brianne Crawford. How's it going, B?
Word up.
That's not cool anymore. We also have my favorite guest, my mom. How's it going, Mom?
Good.
She's so choked up she can't say
I
anything.
love being your favorite.
And, well, I'm your favorite child, so I gotta get... You're my favorite parent. That's a hard fight right there.
I know.
I'm posing this question here. It kind of stemmed from a question that Pepin asked me, and it kind of stemmed from the Stephen King episode. Which is better, books or movies? We can talk about, the general idea of a book versus a movie, and we can also talk about adaptations of movies into books and books into movies, because it does happen both ways, and which is better?
I find the question hard because I have a hard time with books. There are some books I can read audiobooks, read. I think that's technically correct.
Did you just say you can read audiobooks?
Yeah.
Like the case to them? Or?
Yeah, it's actually nomenclature now. So people find it acceptable to say read with audiobooks.
I read all of War and Peace's audio tape, the entire cover.
But audiobooks I can do with, and there's some audiobooks I've listened to, and I've also seen the movie of. And the audiobook is usually better because it's more in detailed and it focuses on these critical aspects to these characters, whereas the movie kind of has to leave them out. But then sometimes the movies are better in their own ways. Like it does this and this and that. This isn't that better. It gets to the point. And it's not so much just dwelling on shit you don't really need to know about.
Interesting. Let's start with something that most people agree with. A book that is turned into a movie, which is typically better, the book or the later movie? Mom, you do an absurd amount of reading, and you've watched an absurd amount of movies too. So I think you're a shining example of somebody who can answer this question very well. Very learned in movies and books.
Typically, the book is better. I like watching the movies because then it gives you a visual to, and like the author's visual instead of my own visual. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But of course, the books are almost always better.
Brianne, what's your opinion on that? As far as a general consensus, not necessarily, every single book or movie. If you have one.
I do have an opinion. It's just forming right now. Because I was thinking of video games instead of movies. So, books, I think, are better. Although I do like, back to what I was saying video games better than like the books on them. So
TV series, I think, are a lot better than movies. So that's one distinction I'd make. If a TV series adapts a book, I think the TV series, it may not be better in all the ways, but it can get a lot more of the characters across, whereas the movies have to dumb everything down and they're kind of like 90% of the book.
So is that a time issue?
Yeah, it's mostly a time issue, and I think a lot of the most popular TV shows nowadays could have been based on books, like Breaking Bad. Like, there's so much character development involved in each episode, each season, and so on and so forth, where it really allows the characters to shine and kind of develop them fully, so you care about them. Game of Thrones is another good one. There's a lot of character development in those, and that's a book adaptation as well. And I think it does a pretty good job for the most part of adapting the book.
So so you're saying TV shows, then movies, then books?
Yeah. Well, my preference of wanting to indulge, because I find books are very hard to read or listen to.
And is that an imagination issue?
It's certainly an imagination issue, because when I read stuff, like, I can't really like picture it in my mind, or not very well. It's more like imagine you're dreaming, but you're dreaming about somebody or some kind of situation, but you're not really seeing the picture. You just kind of have a vague idea of what's happening. Oh, you know what I mean? It's very...
Yes.
Or you try to remember, like, let's say somebody like, say Christine, right? And you try to remember Christine, you have a vague idea of what she looks like in your head. Like, oh, she kind of looks like that thing. But you don't really have a picture in your head.
I am so opposite of you.
Tell me.
I'm the other way. Like, the second that I read, like, even just a sentence, I've submerged myself in with it, and I've merged, and I've already started some sort of a connection either to the story, the place, or the persons, and I'm there with it. I can see it.
Yeah, I can't do that. Like, I read The Hobbit. Well, I was trying to read all the Lord of the Rings book back in the day.
Yep.
And then I was reading The Hobbit because I'm like, okay, this one's a little bit easier. Let me try this one. And I got about like halfway through, and it's like this guy dies, and they're all crying. I'm like, who the fuck died? And then I'm like, why? Who's crying? Who the fuck is this? Who the fuck is? I didn't realize. I didn't know what was going on in the plot. I know there was Gollum. I know there's this Goblin King or something, and I knew who Bilbo was. That's about it. And I think Gandalf was in there somewhere, but I didn't know who any of these characters were and why they were crying and who just died.
Interesting. Do you find yourself fragmenting your reading a lot, so it's hard for you to retain a lot of the information, such as specific characters, or is this even when you're reading like straight through?
I think it's reading straight through and trying to incorporate what I just read into the thing. So let's say I read a character description of, like, say, I don't know, Boromir, and describes Boromir as a dwarf, and he's got a long beard that's gray with these rings in it or something. And then a paragraph later is talking about how Boromir is doing bloody blah blah. I can't picture the previous guy. It's not in my memory. It's just like, it's just kind of this name saying something. If I said John was walking up the hill, there's no picture of John there. It's just kind of this ambiguous thing of some guy walking up a hill. Whereas, maybe I can eventually incorporate it. So I'm trying to read Game of Thrones. And I'm using a lot of the characters from the TV series to help me picture what's happening in the book. So I'm trying to, like, put more effort into it. But if I didn't know these characters from the show, I'd be like, yeah, okay, that ambiguous John walking up the hill is doing something. Who's this guy? Oh, he kind of does this thing, I think. He did that thing one time and talked to that person.
So you don't know Boromir from Adam.
Who's Adam?
That was flawless. I knew you were gonna give that reaction too. So that's actually really interesting. That once you've seen something, then you're able to attribute it. But creating that image in your own mind and making it stay is very difficult for you. I feel like I'm more the opposite as well, closer to B, in that sometimes when I read something, I'll almost think that I have, like, later on, like years later, say, like from a Buick 8, I swear that I saw a movie on From a Buick, did not read the book. Or The Long Walk. I swear I saw the movie, but the movie doesn't exist. So I know I didn't see the movie. I know I read the book. But that's how vivid it is in my mind, is that things that I remember are so real. It's like I actually saw it, to the point where I actually think I saw it and it doesn't exist. So that's the only way I know I didn't.
I've only had that happen to me one time, and that's with there's a anime or manga out there called Attack on Titan. And I got really into it, and so much so I watched the anime first, and I started reading the manga, and I got like somewhat into it. And then for some reason I was thinking back, and I'm like, oh, that scene was awesome. I want to watch that scene again. So I try to like go on YouTube and start trying to find like the fight that happened and stuff, and I couldn't find it. And then I'm like, wait a second, no, this happened after this event and this event. And then I realized that it hadn't actually been animated yet, but in my head it was animated. Now this is a graphic novel, so there's the visual elements already there, and the show kind of takes after the novel the manga very well, so it's primed to be put into that perspective in my mind. But that's the only instance I've had that happening, so I can relate kind of to that, but not very well. Just that one instance.
Where do you stand on this, Mom?
I'm like you and Bree. I can picture it, and I'm in the story for the most part. Sometimes it's hard to separate. I don't, yeah.
Very hard.
Interesting. Is it certain writers that you find that way? Is it everything? Is it certain characters?
It's certain writing styles, I guess. Like Stephen King, of course, is my favorite. Janet Ivanovich is hysterical. Recently I've been reading a lot of, like, they're from like England and Scotland, because they're free on my Kindle, and they're actually pretty good, but I find myself reading in my head in an English accent.
Oh my god, yeah.
Are they using a lot of English phrases?
Yeah.
Like chap and blimey?
Yeah. Bloody. Yeah.
Well, that's a Stephen King phrase.
No. Bloody as in using it as a swear.
Bloody hell?
Yeah, that.
Now, when you read the characters and stuff, like, let's say there's like an aspect that's introduced about them. Like, they first described as like some tall man with a black beard and blah, blah, blah. And then, so you imagine that, and then let's say they add something else to it. Does that change the picture of you're looking at him?
It does. Like, funny you mentioned that. I was reading a book recently, and I had an image of one of the characters in my mind, and then later on, he's described, and he didn't look anything like I pictured him.
So did you have to go back and reread and be like, oh,
well, no.
That changes the story?
I didn't go that far. I just went, oh. Dude.
And that's why I don't read like those romances.
It's not a romance.
No, I know, but I mean, like, for that reason, because I'll like get something and then it's like, oh. No.
I'm so lost right now. What romance is?
Brienne's saying she doesn't read romance novels because she gets an idea of the romance novel guy she would want, and then it ends up being a different guy altogether.
Yeah.
But because, like, I'm there with it. I may not be the person that's doing anything with him or in the relationship, but I'm watching it. It's just...
Oh, so you don't read romance novels and put yourself in the position of the woman. You're a voyeur.
I'm sitting like right up, like right there with it.
Romance novel voyeur. Fascinating.
That is interesting.
Yeah, so
I'm usually the main character.
I don't know if I can do that. Like, I don't know how to.
Don't they typically write like the women in those novels to be very plain so that you can project yourself on them? I know that was what they were saying Stephanie Meyer did with the Twilight books.
Bella?
Yeah, is write her to be very plain Jane, very just a flat character, one-dimensional. That way the girl can project themselves onto her.
Same with 50 Shades of Grey. The character in that is very amorphous, ambiguous, and this...
That's a common trope.
That's brilliant.
It's also
Doesn't work for me.
true of like a lot of war movies or like action movies and stuff. The main, usually male protagonist is a badass and blah blah blah, but he doesn't have much character to him. He's just kind of this person that does incredible things.
Brand's like, I really like that Plain Jane character.
Jeez, I just
Wish I could be her. I just don't see myself as that Plain Jane.
well, no, but like if you ever read a Harlequin romance,
Yes, I have.
We have an episode on that.
yes, actually,
It's dating stories episode.
call back. But I don't see some of the characters on those are female characters are developed well enough that I can see them and I don't self-identify and put myself in their position. Like,
Definitely not a not a flat across the board. That's how it always is. But it is a common trope that is what writers will do is allow the reader to project themselves onto the character by not developing the character very much. Just things happen to the character instead of the character doing things tends to be the way that things like that go.
Would you say you project yourself onto the character, Steve, or are you more like watching it from like afar?
I tend to watch it, but I'm very good at empathizing, so I can feel like what I put my feelings in there, but not my personal self, if that makes sense. So like, how would I feel if I was in that situation and was that person? So I put them in me, kind of. Harlequin novels, great times. Putting them in me.
It sounds like you guys through reading. We're gonna try to push.
I think we're having a laugh break here.
We're gonna try to push past this to see if it works. So it seems like you said, Sandy, that books were better in general. Same with B, I believe, and Steven, I think you kind of hinted at that. I'd probably say it's true as well if I could get into books more. But it's so interesting hearing you guys talk about books. I'm the minority here, but because it sounds like you can get like super into the book and like almost feel like you're there. And I never really had that experience. Like, it's never like it feels like it's very, very vivid in your mind, whereas it's not really vivid in my mind. I mean, movies aren't really super vivid to me either, but they can be occasionally. I mean, maybe, like I said, the most vivid experience I've had is with Attack on Titan. But besides that, it's not that great.
And that wasn't really a book per se either. That was a graphic novel, so it's kind of a different medium in a way.
Yeah, true.
In the same way that like nowadays video games have so many cinematic elements that sometimes they're borderline movies, but it's still a different medium to have a video game versus a movie. And I know B hinted earlier at video game, you liking the story of a video game or the adaptation of a video game created from a book better than the book itself. Are there examples?
Just like Sword Art Online, I just didn't get into the actual novels or manga that it was, but then I watched the series and I just could identify, and I just got sucked into the storyline, and I made connections, and then the video game I could, but it was just we had so much going on at the time that I was like putting myself in that I didn't want to submerge myself because I could feel myself losing control of time. And I would literally 1 second turn it on, and then all of a sudden Steve's in the house, and like 9 or 10 hours went by, and it felt like a second to me because I was stuck in this whatever I was doing. So I didn't pick it back up because I was afraid of that. But on the flip side, horror stuff like that doesn't work except for Silent Hill. I actually enjoyed the movie more than I did the video game.
Oh.
I know.
That's a disgusting opinion.
We're each entitled to our own.
Yeah, you're right. You have the prerogative of being wrong.
There's actually a few video games which I have gotten really into. I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, B and Steve, because There's two games I really got into. Like, I could feel myself in the game. And one I actually played with Steve and also another friend, PT. And that game is like a horror game. It's like actually a demo. It's short for a playable test or something like that.
Playable trailer, maybe?
Playable trailer, that's what it is. Playable trailer. And it's like, I think it's a Silent Hill or something demo.
It was originally going to be for the new Silent Hill game that ended up being canceled.
Yeah, and the game is in like first person's perspective. It's very, very good graphics, and it's like I watch people do let's plays of this game because it's very good for reactions. It's a very scary kind of trailer and stuff, or playable trailer. But it's like as soon as I got the controller in my hand and started actually playing, I was like, oh shit, I don't really want to peek around this corner. Now I've seen like 6 people play this game before, parts of it at least. And I'm still kind of scared. I'm like, oh, shit, what's, run. And it was strange. Another game I got really invested in was The Witcher, or The Witcher 3 more specifically. And I think part of it was, like, I actually read all the little mini books in there. They're like, just like 2 or 3 pages per book and stuff. Because it added a lot to the world, a lot to the characters. I liked all the characters, and Geralt is kind of like one of these kind of he's a character, but he doesn't have that much to him. He has bits to him, but in the game you make all these choices and stuff, and you make the choices yourself. It's not completely open ended, but it's just choices that you'd probably choose, like between like, do I kill him? Do I let him go? Do I do this? And I felt like making those choices myself allowed me to kind of really invest myself into the character and into the games. And also, I really like the character, so I really wanted to like save them. Like, they could kill off anybody they wanted in the games because that's how they roll. So there's a few points in the game like, oh fuck, they're gonna kill this person, and it's really kind of like no.
Yep.
But that's another instance of me getting sucked into a fictional game. I think games might be a little better avenue for me than say film or text.
So is it the nature of control? It's not only is it something that you don't have to necessarily picture in your head, but you're also able to help dictate the way the story goes, which tailors it more towards. It's like if you were able to, like with books, I theorize that a lot of people like the book better than the movie because you can use your imagination and kind of, the author has an intent of how something is, but you can create it in your mind, in your imagination. You're going to create it the way you want it to look, even if the author didn't intend it to be that specific way. And you can't really do that with movies because it's painted in black and white for you, or color nowadays. But with games, you can kind of get back into that in a way, because while the images are locked in place, the choices are what's changing, and it allows you to project your own persona onto it in a very different way than you do with books, but being able to make it your own similarly.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like that. Also, a good point I think is you don't have to like the characters automatically in like at least The Witcher 3. Because you can choose to be addicted to certain characters. You can choose to let some die, and there's all these relationships, and you don't have to accept how they are necessarily. You can dislike someone, or you can like them. And there's often dialogue options that allow you to have that choice interaction with that person. And also, these whether you like someone or not and how you treat them will affect you and stuff. So there's more control over that. And it's not like some games, it's like there's this character, or movies, for instance, there's a character that, oh yeah, this is your good friend right here, and that's just how they are, and they can't not be your good friend, even if you think they're this incompetent douche that shouldn't be your friend. In this game, you can choose whether you want them to be around. You can backstab them if you want.
It's like it's someone else's reality away from your own. It's like a vacation from your own, so you can escape your reality and jump into this other reality.
Escapism is a huge part of entertainment in general, and fiction is entertainment by nature. That's what it's typically intended for. So I think that's an interesting point to bring up, that it's not how to say it. So it's like it's not just your ability to create the world in the way that you want it, as far as like a book imagining it, or as in a game, being able to make decisions. But it's like acting out things that otherwise you wouldn't be able to, or wouldn't find yourself in those situations. It's fulfilling fantasies and desires within you that you otherwise wouldn't be able to fulfill.
I think that's a very, very good point, and that's actually like a big argument behind. There's certain figures in psychology who have argued that a lot of mythological and biblical stories, and just any kind of religious kind of thing, there's all these kind of tropes, and these tropes are to get you to kind of think and kind of plan out in your head these kind of, say, archetypical kind of figures and these paths and actions that you could possibly do, and which is a little like vague and everything, but by reading, say, about the character of Jesus, you're able to then imagine yourself acting in that way through empathizing, and you can aspire to be more like that character, or you can see another character going down a certain path. So there's often the tragedy stories where, let's say, this character commits some sort of wrong. He goes down this wrong path, and then it's a downward spiral. So you're able to put yourself into that situation where this character, is tempted by something. He bites into temptation, and then your brain starts simulating that in your own world here. Like, you start thinking, okay, there's a temptation here. Like, maybe it's hookers and blow, and you're like, maybe I should go down this path. And then you go down that path, and then you're poor and have STDIs and stuff.
Why are you gonna keep bringing up my life? Hey, Pepin.
Yo.
You remember that time that we saw that wrestling show live?
Oh yeah, I loved it. It was like in your face, very personal, and it was crazy.
I know. I feel the same way, and I feel like now I really like local stuff. It's just so much better production quality.
And you feel that connection to the people who are, taking part in it too.
Absolutely. So I was looking around, and I found a wrestling promotion that's small time, but they're huge in personality and production value, and it's called Innovative Hybrid Wrestling.
Innovative Hybrid Wrestling?
IHW.
Ooh. And where can I find about them?
I know you're all over Facebook, you're all over Twitter. Those would be the two places I would suggest looking for Innovative Hybrid Wrestling, Facebook and Twitter.
All right, so just go to Facebook and Twitter, just search Innovative Hybrid Wrestling.
You got it.
All right.
So I wanna head towards the wrap up at this point, and ask, what is everybody's favorite form of media to experience fiction, to experience stories? We've talked about today books, movies, TV shows, manga, graphic novels, video games. What do you guys like? How do you guys like experiencing these things the best?
My all-time favorite is books.
Is there anything specifically about books that makes you feel that way? What is it about books that sets them apart from any other form of media?
Well, there's the imagination aspect of it, and there's no noise. Like, with TV, there's noise. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's loud.
Yeah.
Like, you literally mean like audible noise, not like background kind of
Right.
stuff confusing you. But
No, like the noise from the TV itself.
yeah, like sound.
Yes. And it's pretty hard to distract me when I'm reading. Huh, Steve?
Yeah. No, for sure. B?
I'm really trying to think, but I don't think I have a favorite. There's other mediums I like better than, there's some mediums I like better than others, but I'm so easy to connect with anything that any medium works for me.
How about you, Steve?
I want Brienne to come up with a real answer.
That is a real answer for me.
Got to pick one. What medium do you find yourself have the most ability to get lost in, to completely submerge and lose track of time the most?
Gaming. Yep.
Is there anything specific about gaming that sets it apart from the other mediums? What draws you into that more than anything else? the physical act of controlling something?
No, I think it's because I can do that just sitting down. Like if you ever just see me spacing out, I'm lost in my head in a story or a world or even a thought that happened throughout the day. So I'm just lost in this whole different reality in my head. And I guess gaming is the closest thing to doing that. If that makes sense.
For sure, yeah. I mean, gaming's also something that takes your body and your mind into the game into account at the same time.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's got to be it because I'm lost in my head and I'm lost there.
I know you're a very tactile person, so I imagine that having the controller and controlling, like using your hands, would be a benefit for you. Versus when you're just sitting watching a movie, there's nothing that you're physically interacting with.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Nathan?
It's hard to say for me because I like video games, but there's only been like 1 or 2 video games I've actually like really been into. The Witcher 3 would probably be the main one. I've tried role-playing in like Skyrim. Hard to do.
May I introduce Dragon Age to you? Origins, Dragon Age Origins.
Maybe. I'm trying not to sink too much time into video games.
Fair.
I try to play some strategy games, like where you try to take over the world and then try to like be a character in that a little bit, do some role playing. But for me, it's probably more like TV series, particularly anime. I mean, there's certain TV shows as well, like Game of Thrones. Like Game of Thrones, you start watching, you keep wanting to watch the next episode until like stuff really goes bad, and then you get depressed and need a cigarette. Jesus. But a lot of anime like Death Note and Code Geass and some of these other ones where it's kind of like drama, and each episode is like satisfying, but it also has a cliffhanger, and you just want to keep watching and you get more and more invested in what's going on in the plot and the characters and the mystery and everything. Attack on Titan's like that as well. That's what I get really interested in. It's more like the kind of the lore and the plot and the kind of different political kind of things going on. That's what I get invested with. Yeah, I'd say anime. I'm gonna be really specific. Anime.
Interesting.
I'm not super into anime, by the way. Just those couple ones I listed.
Attack on Titan, Death Note,
Code Geass. Code Geass is really good. Check it out.
Dragon Ball,
Elfen Lied.
Sword Art Online.
That's not his style.
Elfen Lied is really beautiful in certain ways and felt up in other ways. It's I don't know. It's too much like naked young girls.
That's true.
Oh, like that car wash we saw today.
That's true. Oh my God, tell him.
There was like a car wash for like a girls' soccer, but it was like middle school girls. They were like 14 years old holding a car wash. And like, they're like, hey, can we wash your car? I'm like, no, I'm all set. Like, I don't want a bunch of And then we drive by the car wash. It's a bunch of 14-year-old girls in like tank tops and shorts and one 45-year-old man in slacks. Washing people's cars. Oh. And they make you get out of the car and watch them wash it. It's so awkward.
Oh, that's creepy.
I'm really glad that I did not get my car washed today.
But they offered you could donate.
They did. I should have just donated and not gotten my car washed. Like, here, put this towards not car washing.
That could be like a great like undercover Chris Hansen moment.
I mean, I don't even like when high school girls do, like cheerleaders and stuff do car washes. I think that's creepy. Like, why are 16, 17-year-old girls doing in skimpy clothes, like washing cars and shit? That's just sketchy.
Yeah.
And they say chivalry's dead.
Right? I raised him right.
Now, if it's like college age girls.
Never mind.
All right. Strike that.
Actually, Steve, I'm in agreement with you on that.
And that's my favorite form of entertainment.
Okay.
Car wash.
I think we're done here.
I'd actually go with movies. I think it's just like you don't have to do anything. You can just sit back and turn your mind off completely and just get completely invested. You don't have to use your imagination. You don't have to make any decisions. You don't have to control anything. You don't have to turn any pages. You just sit there and you just watch the thing. And a lot of really great directors like Stanley Kubrick use visuals in such a way that it completely can sometimes change how you see things. I know V for Vendetta, that movie is absolutely amazing. The visuals are stunning and the storyline is outstanding. It has a lot to offer. Definitely highly suggest.
Did Kubrick do 2001: A Space Odyssey?
He did indeed.
It was kind of funny because I don't think you saw Kubrick before you saw that movie, and you came back from this party, and the movie was just playing in the background, and you just started watching the movie, and you came back and just started talking about the movie. Mm-hmm. Like, you spent like an hour describing it and everything. It's like, it was just beautiful. Like, I didn't know what was happening. That was awesome.
Yeah, he's an amazing director. Highly suggested. He did The Shining by Stephen King, the one that Stephen King doesn't like. But I think that's fascinating. We have books, video games, TV, and movies. We pretty much span the whole breadth. So what I want to do is you guys should look us up on Twitter at WNTT1, and we're going to put up there a poll. Which do you guys like better for entertainment? If you had to pick just one, which would it be of those four? And I want to see who most of society is alongside. And on Facebook, I want to know, are you guys more like Pepin or more like us three? Because we all are able to dive into books, and Pepin's imagination just isn't capable of handling that in that sense, in the sense of imagining people and then being able to carry that in through the movie. Are there other people like Nate, or is he one in a million?
I'll just add that I have a really short attention span sometimes. Like, it's a lot easier for me to like listen to a 45-minute lecture on a topic than listen to a 5-minute video on a topic or watch that. I could probably learn about it in 45 minutes, but I can pay attention for that long, but not 5 minutes.
Are you like everyone else, or are you like a Pepin?
A Pepin?
Find us on Facebook.com/We Need to Talk Show.
Donate to us on Patreon.com.
Something, just look us up.
Yeah, just type in the name of the show and we'll pop. You see my face and then Meter's face, and we're kind of like
Microphones.
Microphone. Are we microphones though?
Yeah, we're microphones.
In real life?
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
We're microphones talking into people.
Talking.
Man, this just changed all my perception on us.
This is great. I think
we need to talk. Hey, Pepin.
Hey, Meter.
I've been thinking a lot about comic books lately. Do you like comic books?
More into manga, but yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so there's a great store online. It's called comichunter.net. They have comics, they have mangas, they have graphic novels, they have Magic the Gathering. Pretty much anything you can think of that's super nerdy, they have it.
That sounds pretty cool. And this is a website I can order from?
Absolutely. We may be in America, and they're based out of Moncton, which is in Atlantic Canada, but you can still purchase online.
Ooh, and comichunter.net?
Absolutely. If you ever happen to be in Moncton, you can check out the store. They have Magic the Gathering right there in the store. They have Dungeons and Dragons. They have graphic novels. They have used comic books, and all things at a cheap price. Definitely suggest checking them out. And Matt Surratt's there too.
Matt Surratt?
Absolutely. I definitely suggest checking them out.
Where again?
comichunter.net.
comichunter.net.
Comic Hunter, where heroes come to play.
This has been a TPC Network podcast. For more shows like this, go to tpcnetwork.com/podcasts.
That's like one of the worst episode openings I've ever done.
All right, so
I don't know.
one
We
quick
were
one.
laughing. We were a little perplexed.
Yup.
I was trying to get the movies versus books in there.
I was just like,
You were talking about dresses. I think I led us there. But
Well, let me address this. Do you like books or movies?